Hello my crafty friends, it's Marie from Marie's Vermont Creations, and today I'm going to be making a card in celebration of Transgender Visibility Day. So I'm just showing you the products that I'm using. This is a paper pad from Honeybee Stamps called Team Tie-Dye. I'm going to be using the Floral Vase stamp set, coordinating stencils and dye, and I will be using Distress ink in the colors Mustard Seed, Picked Raspberry, Salty Ocean, Rustic Wilderness, and Mowed Lawn. So I'm going to start by taking this scrap of white cardstock and I am going to stamp down the large floral vase from the Floral Vase stamp set, which again is from Honeybee. And I am going to stamp that down using my VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And to stamp it, I didn't show you, but I ended up shifting it a little bit, making it blurry when I went and stamped it the first time, so I ended up flipping it over. So at the end, when you see me glue it on, you can see where my boo-boo was. But I'm just using a dry eraser to help me get even pressure on the lid of my Misty, just pushing it down in some spots where I missed. And then I'm going to take the coordinating stencils. This is what's really cool about this stamp set, because coloring takes me forever. So I am going to take the stencils, line them up, and then use the color for that area with my Distress inks in order to color in this image. So I'm going to start with one of the foliage pieces to get the leaves done, and I'm going to use Mowed Lawn, and that's going to color in the stems and a few of the leaves, and then I'm going to work through the different stencils and completely color this image but using the Distress inks. So this is, you could use any inks that you have. You could use oxide inks. You can color this if you wanted to without the stencils, but I just think the stencils make this so much easier to complete. So while I work my way through these different stencils, I just wanted to talk briefly about Transgender Visibility Day. This is celebrated on March 31st, and it is a day just to bring awareness and celebration of those in the transgender and non-binary community. They do still face significant discrimination and hatred aimed towards them for being different. And so this is a day just to celebrate and bring awareness, to the transgender non-binary community. So I hope that to live in a world where people are not discriminated or hated against for who they are, for being different, for, just trying to be themselves. So I hope that you will just spread love and be kind. That's, I guess, what I want to ask of all of my YouTube followers and the community, because the world will be a better place if we all could do that. So I'm just filling in the vase here with the Salty Ocean. So I am going to also fill in a portion of the flowers with the Salty Ocean, but that requires a different stencil. So I'm going to line it up, and you'll see I have tape on this stencil because I use this stamp set and stencil to make Mother's Day cards. I like to mass produce cards. I make them every year for the nursing facility that I work in for Mother's Day and Father's Day, and this is the stamp set that I used for that project. But I thought this would be a good way to use the pink and blue and the white in the background for the transgender flag. Those are the colors for that. But you'll see that I had that tape on there, and that is because a couple of the stencils have the puff in the right hand corner. Their opening is in a couple of the stencils, and you'll see I make an error in not coloring that correctly. For some reason, the two of those are open in the center of the floral, so that's where I'm going to do my yellow. And so right here I accidentally made one of those yellow, and that is not what I want to have happen. So I'm going to cover it with the Picked Raspberry, and of course that's going to make it a little bit orangish. And I just continue. I finish with the project, but after I finish filming, I did take, and this is just a little tip if you have issues with distress ink or distress oxides that you want to try to fix, I just took some plain water, put it on my media mat, and took a paintbrush and gently, because this is not watercolor paper, just gently wiped at that circle to wipe away some of the ink until it was light enough that I could just replace the picked raspberry color so it looks more like the rest of my images. So in the photos that I'll share on social media, you can see that it's not as orange as it is in this video here. So I was able to fix that because after I finished, I was like, nope, this is going to drive me crazy. So now I'm just going to take the coordinating die and I'm going to tack that down with some washi tape and run that through my die cutting machine. You could use this as a whole panel. You could just leave it and put your sentiment on here. But I do like to die cut it because one, I bought the die, and two, I think it gives me a way to show off a different background, because I'm going to be using the pattern paper from the Honeybee Team Tie-Dye paper pad. So that's what I'm doing now. I cut this down to 5 1/4 by 4, and I'm just adhering this down with the Barely Arts glue. I just purchased this and it's new for me, so I'm giving this a whirl. And I went and found this alcohol ink-like background, which had both the pink and the blue in it. And I'm just adhering down my floral arrangement. And then I was going to add my sentiment on a sentiment strip, but I decided to add it directly to my card base. So my recommendation for you is, if you're going to do that, to stamp that before you adhere everything down to your card. But we're going to wing it as normal and put this whole thing in my MISTI. Put the magnet down so it kind of holds it down, and then I'm going to put the Love You sentiment in the bottom right hand corner. And then I'm going to stamp that using VersaFine Nocturne ink. And I will say, for this ink, for stamping sentiments, it works beautifully, especially these thin ones. Just don't give it too much pressure because you'll splay out your words and it won't read correctly. But that's going to finish today's project.